This is The Creative Act, written by Rick Rubin. And this book, in short, is about creativity and the inner processes for which creativity comes about. I'm 38 pages in, not too far, and I have some thoughts. Reading the first pages, I feel that during the first few pages, I feel myself sort of cringing, and that's not to say that the book is bad. What that tells me is that my previous education in philosophy and the preferences that I have developed are coming out in a sort of pretentious kind of manner. But that's not to say that the first few pages aren't good. What the first several sections, I think, are trying to do is explain to the masses, the average reader, whether the reader knows that they are creative or the reader is trying to find direction in becoming more creative in their daily life. That is who this book is for. So the book starts from ground up, what creativity is and how we do it. But Rick Rubin is very forward in the intention of this book. For example, he starts out by saying, "Nothing in this book is known to be true. It's a reflection on what I've noticed, not facts so much as thoughts." And I appreciate that honesty because sometimes people really take their own thoughts as facts. And it's not to say that our own thoughts aren't valid or our experiences aren't valid, but to go from a thought to a fact requires something more extra than just being able to express it. That's something I'm not going to go into, but I just want to say that I appreciate the honesty here. So during the first pages, I said I cringed, right? And it's because the metaphor that Rick Rubin uses for how inspiration kind of comes from without and finds itself within, it's not bad. But because of my previous education, my more formal education, I find myself overanalyzing, which isn't necessarily bad, but I find myself overanalyzing and picking apart the metaphysics of Rick Rubin's metaphysics for how that metaphor plays out. But it's not a bad metaphor. It's not a bad metaphor. Some of the metaphors that Rick Rubin uses is how we have an antenna, and the sensitivity of that antenna determines how well we receive the inspiration. And a lot of what Rick Rubin talks about goes into or relates to things that Alan Watts has said about Wu Wei, that comes from Taoism. If you read anything from Zhuangzi, you will know much about Wu Wei. But it's not to say that Rick Rubin is drawing from these philosophical, psychological sources directly. It kind of, like he says in the beginning, he's just kind of expressing his thoughts on what he's noticed. And I feel that Rubin's experiences and thoughts kind of reaffirm the things I have studied in the more formal setting. I am slightly disappointed in kind of how far I am going to have to read to get to kind of the meat of the material. But that's just because I have prior education and experience in studying this sort of thing. So I was kind of hoping for something new right off the bat. But that's not to say that this isn't a bad book. This book is built for the masses. It's built for the average person who's going to see this and take it off the shelf. It's not dumbed down though. That's the thing. It's not dumbed down, but it's not to the point where it's not oversimplified. I hope that helps. I think it's necessary for these first several sections to kind of reiterate the same thing, which is that there is this kind of mysterious essence about being creative that almost feels magical in a way. And because of the Western, the Western apprehension towards what is considered magical, I think taking several sections to reiterate that mysteriousness can help the average reader understand that there is something deeper than just intellect that's up here. There's something more than just intellect that comes about when you're writing a paper, when you're making a painting, when you are doing anything where you have to make creative choices. I really felt like I had a lot more to say here, but I'm only, again, 38 pages in. just to see. So there's a lot more material. There's about 404 pages in here. So I'm going to try and document myself after each reading session, and I'll let you know next time. Should I make this a single episode series, or should I make this one long video? Okay, because I'm not very far into the book, I'm just going to leave it there. But tune in each week for my thoughts on each reading session. Bye.